In today's video, we'll be looking at how to draft an A-line gown with a velvet design. That's a velvet bias. What I meant by velvet bias, this is what I'm talking about. I'll be placing this on the center front of my dress. Okay, this is the style I'll be teaching you guys on how to make. You can see the chest line, the ruffles there. I'll be using my net to make the ruffles for the chest line and also on the sleeve. Okay, this is the net I'll be using for it, and this is my velvet bias, and this is the fabric I'm going to use for this tutorial. Okay, before we get into the video of the day, if you are new to this channel, ensure you like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell to be the first to get notified when I upload a new video. This is an Ankara fabric and this is 3 years, and this is my zip. This is all I'll be needing for this dress. My chalk for marking. Okay, so we just go ahead now and start the cutting of the bodies. Okay, so I'll be cutting it separately, the front separately, then the back separately, for easy understanding for my beginners. So I'll be using the wrong side to mark in order not to stain the chalk on the right side of the fabric. Okay, I just folded my fabric into two, like so. In getting what you fold, you have to measure your biggest body, the biggest part of your body. They add 3 inches extra to it, and mine is my hip, so I added 3 inches extra, and this is what I have. That's to know the quantity to fold. So we'll just impute our measurement. So the gown length I'm working with is 44 inches. So I'll just place my tape and get 44 inches. It's actually 43 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance, making it 44 inches. So I'm using the entire length of the Ankara because what I'm having here is exactly 44 inches. Guys, since this dress is not all that fitted, so I'll be adding few numbers to my basic measurement because I don't want it to be bookers, I don't want it to be all that fitted. So my bust measurement, for example, my bust measurement is 36. Instead of using the 36, I'm going to use 39. That's I'm adding 3 to all my basic measurements. Okay, after folding the fabric now, I will impute my shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 15 inches. Divide by 2 will give me 7.5. So this is my starting line. So I'll impute 7.5. 7.5. You divide your shoulder by 2. On that point where I mark 7.5, I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then I'll mark 3 inches along the neckline. So I'll just connect this with my ruler. Okay, I want this video to be beginners friendly. That's why I'm taking my time to explain on this. So I just connected the line together, 3 inches here along the neckline, then 1 inch downward on your shoulder measurement. So on that point now where I mark my shoulder measurement, I'll come down by my round armhole measurement, which is 17 inches. You also divide by 2. 17 divided by 2 will give me 8.5. 8.5. So I'll mark 8.5 and I'll connect this line downward to meet with the 8.5 I marked. Okay, then I will connect straight like this. Okay, I believe you can see my line. So on this midpoint here where the both line meets, I'll come in by 1 inch. Then I'll derive the midpoint of my armhole. 8.5 divided by 2 will give me 4.25. So from the midpoint now, connect with this 1 inch I marked here. Just connect like this. Okay. After doing that now, I'll impute my box measurement underneath my armhole. So the box I'm working with is 36 inches. Like I said, we'll be adding 3 inches extra. We're adding 3 extra to all our body measurement, not 3 inches, sorry, 3. So my box is 36 plus 3, 37, 38, 39. So I'll be dividing 39 by 4, which will give me 9.75. 9.75. So this is 9.75, the middle line here. Then I'll add my seam allowance, 1.5 inches. So that's what I'll be sewing with. So I'll place my tape from my shoulder again to get my half length, which is 15 inches. From my shoulder to my waistline, 15 inches. I'll draw that line out. This is my waistline. So from my waistline here, I'll come down by 9 inches for my hip line. From this waistline, just come down by 9 inches for your hip line. This is kind of constant. From the distance from your waist to your hip is usually 9 inches. 9 to 8 inches, depending on the height of the person, but it's usually 9 inches. Okay, so this is my hip line and this is my waistline. On my waistline, I'll impute my waist measurement. My waist measurement is 35 inches, so we'll be adding 3 to it because we don't want the gown to be all that fitted. So 35 plus 3, that's 36, 37, 38. So that's 38 now. We'll divide by 4 to give me 9.5. I will add 1.5 inches extra for seam allowance. Then on my hip line now, I will impute my hip measurement, which is 42 inches. 42 plus 3 will give me 45 inches. That 45 now will divide by 4, which will give us 11.25. 11.25. Before the half, the line before the half, that's it. 11.25. This, so I'll mark 11.25. So I'll also impute my seam allowance, 1.5 inches. So on the hemming part of my dress, that's this area, whatever I have on my hip line, including the seam allowance, the total number you have there, what I'm having is 13.5. So what I'll do now, I'll place my tape here at the hemming part. I'll place 13.5. Then I'll add 1 inch extra to it. That's for easy movement. 1.1 inch extra to it. So I'll connect these lines together from my bust to my waist. If you want your dress to be super free, I will advise you add 1 inch to each of the measurements. Instead of adding just 3, add 1 inch. So I'll connect to the hemming part of the dress. Okay, so this is what I'm having. So I'll just cut this out now before cutting my back part. The neckline, sorry, before cutting the neckline. So I'll cut this out now before cutting the neckline. Okay, I'll cut my shoulder slope. Okay, so I'll keep this aside and fold for my back part. So we are folding more at the back because of our zipper allowance. Okay, you can see I've folded my fabric. This is the back part. It's also unfold. Okay, what to be doing now, I wouldn't want since this dress is not all that fitted, I wouldn't want the zipper to bulge out. If you don't want your zipper to bulge out, you place your tape from your shoulder. This is my neckline. You just place your tape like so. You get to your waistline, 15 inches. Then on that point now, I'll mark 2 inches here at the upper part for my zipper allowance. 2 inches here, my zipper allowance. Then on the waistline, instead of marking 2 inches, I'll be making use of 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. So I'll just use my ruler to connect. Then on the hip area, I'll measure 2 inches. You mark 9 inches from your waistline. Get your hip line. So this is my hip line. On that hip line, I'll mark 2 inches as well. So on that waistline, to go in a little, so I'll just connect the lines together now for my zipper allowance. I'll just mark 2 inches straight down now to the end of the dress. It's just on your waistline you have to reduce your zipper allowance. So you just connect the cover because from our body, the back part, you can see it went inside the detail. It's not straight. So your zipper allowance is not supposed to be straight. Okay, as you can see, the zipper allowance, this part is going inward. Then along the neckline is you can see the shape now, it's slopey. It's not straight. Okay, so I'll cut this out now. I'll just trace out same thing before cutting my neckline. Okay, so this is what I'm having. So what we're doing next now, we draft our neckline and our front armhole. The front armhole is always deeper than the back armhole. I didn't do this earlier on because I want to cut the back part first. So I'll place my tape again like so. Then I'll derive the midpoint of my armhole, which is 4.25. So I'll come in by ½ inch. Then I'll connect to meet just like so. From the ½ inch should be marked, connect like this to the upper part. Then to meet up to this end. You can see what I did. So I'll cut this out as well. Okay. So for the neckline, I'll be using 3.5 inches neck depth, neck width. I'll be marking 3.5 inches neck width. Then for the neck depth, I'll be coming down by 4 inches or 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches. Then I'll just use my armhole, my ruler to connect. Okay, if you don't have this ruler, what you just do is I'll just clean it up and show you how you do it if you don't have the ruler. If you don't have your ruler, after marking your 3.5 inches here, then you come down by your 4.5 inches. On this area where you mark 3.5 inches, you also come down by 4.5 inches. you first of all draft a perfect square. So I'll roll it out for you guys to see. Okay, you can see I'm having a square now. I don't know if my chalk is visible enough, but you can see just like this. So on where the line meets here, at this point where it meets, I'll come in by 1 inch, 1 inch. At the meeting point, come in by 1 inch. Then I'll connect from this, from the neck depth, from the neck width to the 3.5 inches we mark to the center neckline, just like so. Okay, so this is how to draft your circle neckline, your round neckline. So I'll cut this out now. Okay, then for the back part, I'll be using 2 inches, and I'll still maintain my 3.5 inches. So just connect to. And ensure you use the same zipper allowance you took, that's 2 inches. Ensure not to forget, so when you are putting your zipper, you know what you used. So I used 2 inches for my zipper allowance, so I know I'm taking 2 inches along this area. So that's all about cutting the dress. This is just a basic dress tutorial. So for my pockets, this dress is going to have a pocket. So from on my waistline here, so this is my waistline where we mark our 15 inches. I'll come down by 1 inch, then I'll mark 7 inches for my pocket opening. If you are working for a kid dress, then you can mark 6 inches instead of 7. So I'll notch that area, just notch it out. Okay, so what I'll be doing next now, I will be placing my velvet on it before lining the dress. So I'll just iron this to get the midpoint line where I will place the velvet on, my velvet bias. So I turned my fabric to the right side, then I'm ironing. I just turned this to the right side and I folded it into 2 equal parts. I just want to get that line. Yeah. You can see the line. So this will give me a guide on where to place my velvet bias. This is it. So I will just place it on the midpoint like so. But before then, I'll be using my hemming gum to place this. You can use your hemming gum or you can pin it up. But I prefer this way. It's easier this way. So I use my hemming gum to hold it down before sewing on it. You have to carefully place it. See, I'm folding the hemming gum into 2 because it's kind of wider than the bias. Or you can just use your scissors to divide it. You can as well pin it up before, instead of this gum. If you find this method difficult, then you can use your pin to hold it up. I'm folding the hemming gum into 2 because it's wider than the bias strip. I will still use my thread to hold it down because if you don't sew on it, I'll still sew on the bias strip. If you don't sew on it, by the time you wash your fabric 1 or 2 times, it might start coming out. The bias strip might remove. The more you wash, the more weaker the hemming gum becomes. So when you sew on it, it lasts longer. After gumming like this, then use your machine to hold it down. Your sewing machine to hold it down. This way to make your work neater and more relaxing. Okay, this is what I'm having. You can see how neat and relaxed it is. So what you do next is to just use your sewing machine to sew on it so it will last longer. You can't just leave it like this. You have to sew on it, stop stitch on it. So for my net now, okay, for you to know where to put the net, the ruffles on the chest line, this, I said I'll be using my net to, I'll be using this net to work on that because that's what I have. I will be placing it on my upper chest line, not on your breast point, your upper chest line. Okay, so you measure from your shoulder here to your breast point. My breast point I'm working with is 10.5. 10.5. So on that breast point line, you go up by 3 inches. Just come up by 3 inches. So you mark, come up by 3 inches here. So I'll repeat same process on the other side. My breast point is 10.5. Then I'll mark 3 inches upward. So I'll be making the ruffles on my chest line. Okay. So on this line is where I'll be making my ruffles. Here and here. So as I said, I'll be using this net. I'm improvising because I don't have the short faders. So I'll be using the net to replace that. I'll be cutting 1.5 inches width of this net. Just 1.5 inches. That's the width. To be 1.5 inches wide. Then I will gather it. That's make ruffles with it. Then place it on both sides. So just go ahead and cut that now. Okay, I've cut out my net. I used 2 inches instead of the 1.5 inches I said because I realized it was not wide enough. So I'll just use my machine to make ruffles with this. You can see this is 60 inches long. That's the full net length. Okay, I have 3 of it. So I'll just make ruffles with it. Then for the sleeve, of the dress, you can see from the picture, it also have ruffles on the sleeve. So these ruffles now, I will making it with my net, and I've cut that out as well. This is 1.5 inches wide, and I have 4 of it here. I'll be making the ruffles on the sleeve. Okay, so this is it. So I'll go ahead now and cut my sleeve. Okay, for the sleeve, I folded my fabric into 4, this into 2, and into 4 for both sleeve. So the sleeve length I'm working with is 15 inches. You can see it's a 3/4 sleeve. So I'll be using 15 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance. I'll be using total of 16 inches. So I'll roll the line out and I'll cut the excesses I'm having. this is my sleeve. This is 16 inches long. You divide your bust measurement by 12 plus half inch. So what I have is 3.5. So I'll mark that 3.5. That's 36. Our actual bust measurement that will be your actual bust measurement that you're going to use, not the manipulated one. We added that 3 to it because we want, that was just for ease. Okay, that's 3.5. Then I also come down by the same 3.5 here. So I'll connect that 3 point where I marked 3.5 here to get my ram armhole. My ram armhole is 17 inches. Divide by 2 will give me 8.5. 8.5. That's her round armhole. The round armhole I'm working with is 17 inches. Divide by 2 will give me 8.5. But I won't be using that exact 8.5 because it's a free dress. I'm having extra. I'll be left with extra fabric if I use exactly 8.5. So what I'll do now, I'll add 1.5 inches extra to it. Okay, that's for my seam. Then I'll connect. Then my round ribs measurement, which is 12 inches, divided by 2 will give me 6. I'll also add 1.5 inches to it. And I'll connect to meet up with the upper calf measurement. This is subject to change. When I'm sewing it, I can shaping it up a little. Okay. So this is what I'm having for my sleeve. So while sewing it, I will just shaping it up a little to make it fitted. So I'll notch the midpoint. That's the upper cap area here. I'll just notch it. Okay. So after I make my ruffles with my net, I'll be sewing it on the fabric, the end of the fabric. So I'll mark 3 inches here. I'll first of all bend the hemming parts, that's the mouth of my sleeve. I'll bend it in. That's if you don't want to use a lining, but if you're lining it, I'll advise you line it first before putting your net. So you leave half inch for lining, for turning your sleeve with your lining. You can mark half inch, just half inch. So from this half inch you marked now is use it to turn the lining, to line your sleeve. That's to turn the mouth of your sleeve with the lining. Then I'll mark 3 inches here and connect 3 inches. So from this point to this point is where you are going to be putting your ruffles. This is where I'll sew my ruffles on. I'll be using half inch distance for each, or 7.5 for each of the, that's the distance between each ruffles. Okay, you just place it on it after you just sew on it after making the ruffles. Okay, so on these lines is where my ruffles will be on. 1 2 3 4. On the 4 lines I'll place the ruffles on each of them. Okay, so I'll just go to my machine now and make my ruffles and show you guys how it will be. It's just to make gather with it. I have a video on where I taught on how to make net ruffles. So the same ruffles will be placing on the both sleeve. I'll repeat this same marking on my other sleeve. Then I will show you guys how we make the ruffles. Okay, I've marked on my both sleeve, as you can see. So I'll just go ahead now and show you guys on how to make the ruffles before we stitch on the fabric. Okay, making the ruffles now, I'll place my machine on gather. As you bring it to the last one, then I will just place my net. So you make sure it's on gather. So Ruffles on your basic sleeve, make instant. You just make the bed and sleep on it. So that's how you make your ruffles. So I'll continue this process on the rest of the net. I won't be showing you guys the rest because it's the same process. So this you make and place on the chest line and also on your sleeve. That's all about the net. So I'll just continue and make the rest of my net, then we're placing it on the fabric. So on the line I marked on my chest line, you can see the line is still there. You just bring your net and you place on it. You just match on it like this on one end and also on the other end. So that's all. You match on top the velvet, you just match close to it, very close. You just match on the net. You sew on the net, you stitch on the net on both side. Okay, so I'll just do just that, and you fix same ruffles, the rest of my ruffles on the sleeve, and that will be all about this video. The rest part of it is just to turn the fabric with my lining. The lining you cut same thing with your main fabric, and you line the dress after you must have fixed the stitch the ruffles on it. Then you line your dress, then fix your sleeve, and that'll be all about this dress. If you don't know how to do the lining and all that, I have so many videos on how to sew an A-line gown where I showed all the process. But for this tutorial, because of how lengthy the video is already, I won't be showing all that. I believe you can do the rest of it. Still, I fix my net on the chest line, and this is what I'll be doing. Uh, I also sewed on my bias to hold it up. As you can see, I sewed on the middle part of my net. I don't know if you can see what I'm saying. I sewed on the middle part. So this upper part, I'll be trimming it off. I'll reduce the length of the upper part. That's this side. I don't know how to explain again. I'll just trim it off because I need only the lower part on side to look like exactly like the one we have on the picture. I'll just use my scissors to trim it off. Just the upper one, not the lower one. So this is what I'm having. You can see I just reduced the length of the upper one. I sewed on the midpoint, then I reduced the length of the upper one. My stitching is still on. You just have to reduce it a little. So you can see it's already looking like what we have in the picture. So I've sewed on my bias. Remember I said you should sew on it so that it won't come out on time to make it last longer. So that's all about this video. Please, if you like this video, ensure you like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, ensure you click on the subscribe button. Just tap the red icon and subscribe to my channel. That's all I'll be showing you for this video. See you guys in my next video. Bye bye. Thank you so much for watching. This is the outcome of my dress.